We're continuing on with the Confessionals Dissected videos, and today we're covering the second season of Drag Race. If you have not already seen my Confessionals Dissected video for season 1, let me give you a quick rundown of what we're doing here. Basically, as Drag Race is a reality competition show, the contestants on the show film confessionals after each day of shooting, where they talk about what happened that day. Sometimes when giving us the story of the episode, the producers use confessionals that were filmed for different days, or even worse, for different episodes, in order to push a usually false narrative or to foreshadow something. Up until season 5-ish, you could tell when these sort of instances occurred, because the girls would always film their confessionals in their workroom looks. So a couple of times, on season 3 in particular, a queen would start a sentence in her confessional in one look and then finish it in another. Those sort of instances are just some of the ones that will be mentioned in this video. Unlike in my previous video, I won't mention when, for example, a confessional from day 2 was used for day 1 if it's something, let's say, innocent. With season 2 having more episodes and contestants than season 1, listing every single confessional of this sort would take a lot of time and may pull focus from the more shady, let's say, uses of the Queen's confessionals on the producer's part. Which really is why we're here today. Starting with episode 1, we get the scene of, first, Shangela and Nicole Paige Brooks, as the first two queens in, talking in the workroom. Shangela says that she's been doing drag for 5 months only up to that point, and Nicole's intro confessional is used of her saying, "I hope that I don't fall into that role of babysitting and start like fixing people's shit." Now, we don't know when these intros are filmed, but still, it's very vague. By the way, when I say intro confessional, I mean the confessionals the queens film where they go, "I'm so-and-so from so-and-so," and I do believe those are filmed before anything for the show is filmed, because a fair amount of them, Tatiana especially, have somewhat grown out facial hair, or at least enough facial hair that wouldn't grow out in a day or so. The entire episode was setting us up for the elimination of Shangela, showing us that her inexperience at the time would be her downfall. Raven wears a lot of these wife beaters throughout season 2, most frequently this black one. She does wear a black wife beater in the first episode during the first day, and there she is filmed in front of an orange background. However, there is a confessional used in the same look, which isn't even like a look, it's just like a black vibe beater. But this time, the background behind Raven is blue. Raven says, and I quote, "I like to be that mysterious, dark ice queen," and I think I have a look that people might be a little intimidated by. I included this quote of hers just because we know what later will come from Raven, or rather what we will see from her, as well as the fact that she's one of the antagonists of the season. Similar things happen with confessionals that we get from Tyra, with the producers cleverly setting her up as the winner of the season, obviously in hindsight, after she had already been crowned. This confessional was filmed after the first day of episode 2. And lastly for this episode, Mystique shows Sahara that she might wear a sort of a basket on top of her head, and she asks her what she thinks of it, and then we cut to the confessionals, filmed the day, or rather the night before, of Sahara going, "Ooh, yeah," in like a fake positive way. This confessional was probably not even filmed about Mystique, but it for sure was not filmed for or about their interaction that happened in the third day in the workroom. Obviously, this was used to undermine Mystique, which is what was sort of a trend of the season. Episode 2 is even tamer than episode 1. As for this episode, I have only 1 or 2 valid examples that aren't that bad either. Since this is Nicole's elimination episode, it's obvious that she'd get more confessionals time, as here we see the producers using her introduction confessional, where she talks about what she misses from back home, that being mostly her son, so we can excuse this use, but I still wanted to mention it. Sahara says, and I quote, "Tyra is being difficult. I want this, it's all about her." And then later, "Oh my god, I'm in the group with like Satan's baby." Now, I'm not sure if this confessional's placement here is valid. Sahara in the workroom wears a similar black shirt, but hers has a logo on, or something of that sort, that reaches even above her chest, but here we cannot even see that logo. It clearly was not blurred out, but it is possible that the producers put some more editing into this, or even had her change her shirt. It's also possible that she just turned the shirt inside out and wore it like that, as Tara did the same thing for episode 9's Day 1 confessional. confessional. I'm assuming that this was from the same day, but that there was a change in clothes solely because of how specific what she's talking about is. However, if that's not the case, I still wanted to include it here. We know that it's a possibility that Sahara changed because for this episode's last day of shooting, she wears a yellow shirt with a green hoodie over it, but in that day's confessionals, we see her both with and without the said hoodie on. Lastly, there is a confessional in which Pandora talks about her dad having cancer that was filmed for the girls' introductions. I didn't want to include it fully because it is a personal matter, and also its use is clearly not bad in intent, but it is the case of a use of a confessional from a different day, so I'm just mentioning it. Episode 3 is tame-ish too. Well, the entire season so far has been kinda tame with these confessionals. Surprise, surprise, Raven is here. She says, and I quote, "I did not come here to lip sync for my life. I came here to win." This confessional was filmed after Nicole had already been eliminated, and as it was used in the beginning of episode 3, we can somewhat forgive it, especially given the fact that Raven lip-synced in episode 3 as well. Similarly to this, a confessional of her saying, and I quote, "If I was told to sashay away and Mystique is still standing up there, I would have fucking slit my wrists." That's a little too much, Raven, but sure. And as you can see, this was also filmed after episode 2, but was used for after Raven won her lip sync against Mystique. Obviously, what she said can be applied to this situation, but it's clear that the original context was that Raven did not think Mystique even deserved to be in the competition with the rest of the queens, and that if she had gone home before Mystique, it would have been a travesty. Yeah, Raven was really rude to Mystique. It really wasn't cute. Tyra says about Morgan when filming their sketches for the Maxi Challenge, and I quote, "Morgan, she was not funny at all. She was crude." Now, Tyra did not wear this in the workroom at any point during episode 3, but she does wear that shirt in episode 4. Although, in the workroom she also wears a green scarf around her neck. It's plausible that she had taken it off before shooting her confessionals. However, still, Tyra's comments certainly were not about Morgan's acting in the sketches of episode 3, but rather probably about her Snatch Game performance, because, yeah, she was not funny there, but we really didn't see much of her being crude. For episode 4, there is only one example. Jessica says that if she had the opportunity, she would call her mom, as she is her best friend. We are shown this confessional during the mini challenge, the reward of which was a call home. We have not seen Jessica in this look in the workroom, even though it's not the most groundbreaking misuse of a confessional, given that it fits with what's happening and it does not paint Jessica or any other girl in a negative light. I'm including it here because not even 10 seconds before this confessional, we saw Jessica's confessional in the actual look that she wore during the first day of that episode. I would not have included this here had that not happened, but this way it was really noticeable. Episode 5 also isn't the most groundbreakingly shocking with their use of other days' confessionals. Of course, we begin with Raven, who says, and I quote, "I think the competition is threatened by us. I'm sure that they're looking at us like, these bitches might do a thing or two." It's probably from the previous episode or even episode 3. It is used in the context of Morgan and Raven, as they are friends, always speaking each other and almost always working together. It's vague as no names are mentioned, and given that episodes 2 and 3 had group challenges, and Raven wore this exact look in both of the episode's first days, but not in this episode, it's plausible that her comments were actually just about whichever team she was on during episodes 2 or 3. However, based on the confessional we see in episode 6 where Raven talks about Morgan being gone, so something that had to have been filmed after her elimination, this could also be from that episode, as the look matches. But since Raven does suggest that she and somebody else are big threats, who else would she say that about but Morgan? I really have no clue. Sahara talking about the guest judge, Martha Wash, and how she loves her music. Maybe foreshadowing that Sahara's familiarity with her music will be a benefit in the later lip-sync song. That is, of course, Martha's. Morgan explaining that on day 1 they're shooting the male portion of their wedding photo, and on day 2 the female portion, or rather in this case them in drag. Jujubee talking about being anxious over having to take a photo out of drag, saying how she's not the most traditionally masculine guy. Tatiana's confessional is about Tyra singing, where she says, "This bitch is pissing me off, as well as Tyra's sort of response to Tatiana and the other girls that were telling her to shut up in the workroom. All of these confessionals are examples of day 2 confessionals used for day 1 of the episode. Why did I include these here, even though they're just character moments? Well, honestly, it's mostly because the things that queens were saying could have easily been recorded after day 1, but for some reason they just were not. Especially with the only story-based confessional being by Tyra and Tatiana at the end, as Tyra's singing happened during the first day, but the episode was edited in a way to seem that the girls finished working on day 1, went and took the part of the picture out of drag, and then continued working on their wedding dresses, which is not what happened. Tatiana talking about how at 14, when she started doing drag, it was kind of an escape, as she got to be someone else and got to be as feminine as possible and not get pointed out for it. This confessional was filmed after the first day of episode 7, prompted by the queens in the workroom talking about their high school experiences, more specifically, how they were treated for being gay. And lastly, there's a confessional of Sahara saying, "This is who I am and this is how I'm going to live my life. And I've come to terms with it, and my mom does not quite understand it, but is working towards accepting and loving that part of me as well." This confessional was filmed during her introduction. Episode 6 has some examples. Raven did not wear this look in the workroom, but what she said in 6 or more of her confessionals in this look for this episode are all very specific for the episode. So I will give the producers the benefit of the doubt and say that Raven maybe changed from her sleeveless black hoodie to her favorite black wife beater, which at this point I'm convinced is just glued onto her skin. Tatiana talks about being bullied for being gay even in first grade. This was from her introduction, and I'm including it here because I'm very confused with the weird blue tint that they edited in. Jujubee says that her dad, who had passed away, believed in her. She believes in herself, and so that's why she performs. Obviously, this isn't a bad use of another day's confessional, but this one is mixed heavily and used with Jujubee's confessionals that were filmed on that day of episode 6. So the change in hairstyle and shirt is very noticeable. Episode 7 had only one use of a confessional from a different day from Tyra, but it was an extremely innocent one, so we won't include it. Episode 8 has only one instance that would be irrelevant for this video. In it, we see Raven say, and I quote, "I look at Pandora. No, I don't see a star in her at all." This is shown to us during Pandora and Jujubee's lip sync. This confessional of Raven's was filmed after the first day of episode 7. Now, given the way the confessional was presented to us, it is very plausible that Raven's line of, "No, I don't see a star in her at all," was not about Pandora, but that the producers did some extra editing, using audio from one confessional and ending it with the aforementioned second sentence. Assuming that the producers knew that the fans would like Pandora, they might have put this here to sort of persuade us into understanding her elimination if for any reason we were to disagree with it. And lastly, episode 9 has one confessional that I could not identify at all, meaning I have no idea when this could have been filmed, as we don't see Jujubee in this light blue shirt ever in the workroom. The closest thing that resembles this she wore in episode 3, but it doesn't match fully, I'm afraid. It doesn't even match with anything that Juju wears for the finale episode. So, as you can see, season 2 was a lot tamer and a lot fairer to the girls, and told a story that was almost completely true to what actually happened. It is, however, very clear from the confessionals mentioned that Raven got the shortest end of the stick, with her really being put into the main antagonist role. There were even more instances of Raven's confessionals showing her as a really rude person, but the rest were in fact filmed for the episodes that they appeared in. It's very interesting to see that Tyra's confessionals from episode 3-ish showed her as the anti-hero of the season. So the dynamic of the top two being the anti-hero and the straight-up antagonist is very interesting to notice on your rewatch of season 2, which is such an excellent season without a dud in the cast. If I find an HD version of this season's Untucked, I will also go over the Untucked's confessionals, because I assume that the editing there is worse in regards of mixing, and it would give me more material to work with, but all in good time. And that's it. That's the video. If you have not already, please do watch my ranking of the season 2 cast based on their track records video, and then do all that fun stuff like liking, commenting something smart, hopefully in your mother tongue. I'm not letting this go. Subscribing if you have not, and yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching.